Brilliant. So, hi, I'm Simon. I'm one of the admins over here at Essex Coronavirus Action. And we're having a chat with Charlie today. Just wondering, Charlie, if you could just introduce yourself more and also the nature of what we're going to talk about today, please.
Sure. Hi, Simon. Thanks for inviting me on. So I am Charlie. I am a life coach and a culture consultant. And I'm the author of a book, which I think is the most relevant to this discussion today, called Man Down, which is a kind of beginner's guide to mental health targeted towards men. And I guess this came about because I have struggled with anxiety for probably about 20 years and had a couple of bouts of depression. And I wanted to put something out there to help other people. I did a master's in positive psychology and coaching psychology and was keen to, kind of off the back of that and my own personal experience, put something out that was accessible to all men as a kind of starting point in terms of learning about mental health and what we all go through, to be honest, but particularly challenging the kind of traditional masculine stereotype. Men not being able to show vulnerability, not being able to be anything but strong, and showing weakness and showing when they actually need help and asking for help when they need it.
That's really cool because I mean, we obviously have our sister page, so to speak, Never Too Late, Mate, over here, which is kind of like it's a channel trying just to get the basic information about where to get help to people. Literally, I mean, it just started out as a list of phone numbers and email addresses and stuff like that, and it's now grown into a page and a community. It's the whole male suicide aspect that people sometimes might need explaining a bit more. I mean, obviously you've got the book out, but have you actually had any feedback yet from people that it has helped, or what's the general reaction been to the book?
Been fantastic, to be honest. I was quite nervous about putting it out there. One, because I'd never written a book before, and two, because I was putting I've interwoven my personal story throughout the book to kind of give people a bit of sense of normality for what they're going through, I guess. But yeah, to answer your question, the feedback has been pretty good. I mean, it's on Amazon, and that we've had I've been completely overwhelmed by the reviews that have been on there, and yeah, I mean, I've had people directly messaging me on on Instagram and getting hold of my email and finding me and telling me that it's helped them. So yeah, the feedback has been pretty comprehensively positive.
That's really awesome thing.
Yeah, it's awesome to be able to help them. That's kind of why I did it. So having been quite worried about putting it out there, I'm so glad that I did now in hindsight, because it does seem to have helped people. Like, I just had a message just thinking about a couple of days ago from a lady whose son is 20, and he's been struggling with depression, I think, for years, and she's obviously very worried about him. And apparently my book is very short. It's only like 10,000 words. Like, the average book is like 80 to 100,000 words. It's very accessible. You can kind of dive in and out of it. And she said it's the first book that her son has read in, I think she said, 5 years or something. He's been struggling for a while, and he managed to get through my book and has said that it was helpful. It was useful to him. So, I remember when I wrote the book, I thought if I could just get one person like that I can get to and actually help them or give them a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, then it's all worth it. And I've had a lot more than one. So it's been really, really satisfying.
That's cool. I mean, and again, one thing that we talk about a lot is when people find out more about or even when people get help themselves, when they finally summon up the courage to reach out, basically, or when other people reach out to them, it's very much a pay it forward thing, isn't it? Because again, if you're helped, when you're feeling at your lowest, do you feel that people reading your book, people that get help and advice elsewhere, do you think it enables them to go on to help other people? Is it like what's the word? Is it like a snowballing effect?
It's like a multiplier effect, right? I totally agree. I mean, I'm a big advocate, and a lot of the work I do in the cultural work that I do with companies, as well as individuals, in fairness, is around vulnerability and this idea of vulnerability breeding vulnerability. Like, really good leaders these days show vulnerability in the workplace. They admit failure. They show when something is wrong. They share personal stuff, and that's how relationships are built. Vulnerability is fundamentally how connections are formed between people, how genuine connections are formed. And as you said, there's a beautiful multiplier effect. So as I was helped to kind of help learn to manage my mental health, I'm inclined to help other people, and for sure, there's other people will that I've worked with will be more likely to be more open, more vulnerable with other people that they know. And so there is like a wonderful multiplier effect of vulnerability.
Okay. And then if you're obviously happy to do so here, are you able just to share more about your own experience with depression? More just how did you kind of notice really the first almost symptoms, warning signs, whatever you want to call them, where something triggered for you saying, I need to reach out? If you're obviously happy to share that with us all here.
Yeah, of course. No, happy to. So, I mean, I think I was bullied really badly as a child at a boarding school. And that was the kind of major cause of my mental health challenges. That was between the ages of 13 and 15. You can imagine being totally excluded and physically and verbally abused at that kind of age. Formative age is quite long lasting. And then, so I had a lot of kind of anxiety off the back of that around other people, social anxiety. And then when I was at university, that kind of got worse, and that spread into my work that I was doing. And I just started to become an obsessive worrier. And I still have elements of this in terms of trouble sleeping, for example, insomnia around, negative thinking patterns. So I guess that at university was when I started to notice the anxiety. I remember buying a book when I was at university called, I think it's quite a famous book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And that was the kind of starting point of a 10-year journey of kind of trying to figure out what was going on with me. And because various points in life, relationship changes, starting work would trigger me. And I would, so anxiety would come in various ways, but predominantly around the negative thinking patterns. And then when I went through a couple of big transitions, I got very, very low. And actually a lot around, so when I had a lot of relationship anxiety, a lot of issues around commitment. I would go from partner to partner to partner, and always kind of pushing people away and preventing them from getting too close. A girl kind of telling me that she loved me was like a massive red flag, and I would basically run a mile. And through a lot of therapy, I kind of started to realize that actually that was my own kind of automatic defense mechanism from actually being bullied, not really enabling anyone to get too close to me. So yeah, that was, and I guess off the back of the anxiety around work, around socializing, around my relationship, I had a couple of bouts of very, very low times where I just didn't want to get out of bed, and I was ended up on antidepressants at one point, on SSRIs, so serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which I'm sure you know about. Does that kind of give you a summary? So it's kind of been a couple of large bouts of very sad times, let's say, and when I was actually diagnosed as being depressed, and then kind of consistent anxiety since I was a teenager. I think I've just kind of learned how to manage it better. As you asked about the warning signs, I can tell when I start sleeping a lot less and I'm waking up at 3 every morning consistently and worrying. That's a sign when I actually need to start changing something. And that slightly overused term of self-care, I guess I start to employ tactics to that I know will help me, like making sure that I get out every single day. I see your daughter in the background there.
Yeah, so she's just wondering. That's why I keep the AirPods in.
This is the beauty of home working, right?
Beauty of home working, yeah. Definitely.
You might hear my daughter screaming downstairs in a minute.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so those kind of things. When I started to notice that, or a lot of the negative thinking patterns, then I'll do things like making sure I get outside every day, or I do a lot of sea swimming. Actually, getting in the sea helps me a lot. Talking things through, being completely open and transparent with my partner has really helped. Because I think often guys, like I said, we're often not very good at opening up, not very good at talking. We tend to kind of isolate ourselves when we have a problem, which is really unhealthy when you're having mental health challenges. because you actually need to lean on other people. You need to find support through whatever means that is. Being open about how you're feeling is the first step in that.
Okay, great. So I mean, that's all really useful information, I think, for anybody who might be identifying with the way that you're feeling, or even just parts of it. But again, what would your single, almost concise or whatever piece of advice be for anybody who's watching this now and thinking, you know what, that's me? I mean, again, we always just come out with get help, get help, get help. But is there anything more insightful you think that would really encourage people just to reach out and get help in this sort of situation, in your own experience and from the book, really?
I think acceptance actually is a really key thing to remember. Like actually just accepting this is how I feel right now. Because obviously we're often trying to resist how we feel and thinking, oh, I don't want to feel like this, I want to feel like that. And actually the first step to change is accepting, yes, I feel shit right now. I feel very low. And that is just accepting that fact, and starting from that base point is the best starting point to actually getting better. And I think on top of that, like realizing that actually there is no fix for mental health. It's a management process. You know, we all have mental health, whether you are massively depressed or absolutely on top of your life and flourishing or whatever, to use the positive psychology term. Both people on that, at the end, two ends of that spectrum, have mental health. And it's not as binary maybe as we think, as it's talked about generally in society. You know, it's not like you're either mentally ill or you're not. It's a very large spectrum. We're all moving up and down it all the time. So we need to accept it and realize that we're managing it, not trying to fix it. On a day-to-day basis, we're all managing our mental health.
And then just one last thing as well, because obviously you've got the book out. Where can you see this going next with your efforts to just get more men talking and opening up and admitting when they need help? Where do you see this all going next?
For me personally?
Or for you, for the book, just for the whole, just for your endeavours, just to get people seeking the help that they need?
Well, I do a lot of, off the back of the book, I do a lot of talks for companies on mental health targeted towards men, because you know, most companies who do all these well-being initiatives around mental health well-being, you know, 80-90% of the people who turn up to those kind of workshops are women. So there's they're recognizing the need for workshops, talks that are targeted towards men, with information specific to them. So that, like doing more of that kind of stuff, that seems to be quite good, I think. It's a good way of men kind of, without having to go to therapy or coaching or counseling or whatever, to actually get some kind of almost like passive way of receiving information about this topic. So I think, yeah, doing more of that kind of stuff is probably the next kind of place. I don't have any plans to do any more books or anything at this stage.
Of course, but I think for you personally, the impression that I'm getting is that the way that you're going to get the most personal satisfaction out of what you're doing is just if these messages and comments keep coming in from people saying, "Thank you so much. I'm now getting help." I mean, again, that's what we find with the Never Too Late Mate project. You know, we talk about numbers and reach and likes and shares as Facebook people do. But at the end of the day, would I rather our content reach 1 million people or stop 2 or 3 human beings from going down a very dark road? I mean, again, it's just you know, there's just absolutely no comparison as far as we're concerned. And I suppose for you, yeah, it's great that you're getting the book out there and you got all your Amazon statistics about how it's going and things like that in sales. But you know, it's just when you get those little human messages back that you think this is definitely worthwhile.
A friend of mine, whose brother in his early 20s has had quite a tricky time, got really depressed, and she gave him my book, and she says to me that, you know, this is a bit of a stretch, but you know, it's really saved his life, kind of thing. Getting him to read that and making him realize that what he's going through is normal, and how to get help, and how to kind of start processing and becoming aware of what he's going through. I mean,
I wouldn't say it's a stretch at all, because you just don't know. And this is the really scary thing about mental health. Sometimes not just for yourself, but when you notice it in other people, it's so scary that you just never quite know exactly how close somebody is to either just, you just don't know how close they are to taking their own life. You just don't know. When you see somebody from the outside, you think, well, are they depressed? Are they? You just don't know, which is why I think when you do genuinely get people saying it saved their life, I would 100% believe in that. Because you just don't know, do you? Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think that's that's hugely impactful. I guess it's when it's quite removed, like through the medium of a book, it's quite hard to know. Like I have, one-on-one clients with the coaching, and that for me is like the most powerful kind of feedback I get, because that I see the person, they're telling me face to face that I've made a difference to them, like that. That I find really powerful. Whereas having it kind of secondhand or third-hand information through a review online or someone's friend or whatever is quite different. The one-on-one feedback is the most impactful for me, saying it's made a difference or I've made a difference.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Charlie. Thanks for your time today. What we'll do is we're going to pop a link to the book just in the caption so people can go and have a look for themselves. But yeah, it's just been really, really useful today. And again, I really hope as well that anybody watching this who can identify early on in the conversation, you can identify the way that you were feeling, will actually feel empowered to try and get help. But also anybody watching this who has a loved one who they can see the signs possibly in them as well. Hopefully it will give them just the encouragement to reach out either to them or to reach out to somebody who can help them, basically. As long as they get the help they need, that's the main thing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Simon.
Thanks a lot then for your time. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.